you know, taking characters and putting them together in unlikely sexual situations. And, you know, I don't, you know, what I don't know doesn't hurt me, so if people want to do that, fine, but don't send it to me and expect me to prove it or something. Now, fan art, that's fine, that's a whole nother thing. Fan art is great, and people do send me links to that all the time. Some of this you just have to, what you want to do for your own amusement is great, but you can't start selling it on eBay or merchandising it, because then you'll get sued, if not by me, you'll get sued by one of my multiple makers of bobblehead dolls or figurines, because you'll be moving into one of the areas that they're paying me good money to be into. Right. So.
And Tom, did you have a quick follow-up to that about what it means for the publishing industry now that, again, texts circulate beyond the actual books that you're selling?
Well, I basically agree with George that his ideas are his ideas. Somebody, you know, his characters are his characters. For us, it doesn't have much effect because none of it is very powerful. Some of it creates good publicity and some of it is annoying, but frankly, we don't pay a whole heck of a lot of attention to it.
Okay. So George, for you, I'm curious about what does that mean to you as an author, creating a fictional world where that world now exists in multiple forms?
Well, it's been an interesting experience, to say the least. I mean, when most of my career writing books like The Armageddon Rag and Fever Dream and Dying in Light before that, or all of my short stories there was no secondary rights, there were no subsidiary rights. Occasionally I would get a movie option, you know, most of which just paid me some money and they held the rights for a year or two and then you'd never see a movie or something. I did occasionally get something filmed. My novella Night Flyers was made into a film at one point. I had a story called Remembering Melody that became an episode of The Hitchhiker. So occasionally something came through, but there were no other rights beside that. But then when Game of Thrones started becoming popular, Song of Ice and Fire, suddenly I started getting these offers that I had never had before from various people who wanted to do replica swords or miniature figurines or, you know, various types of games, role-playing games, paper and pen role-playing games, and video games, and just a bewildering number of things. And I remember having through a period where I said, well, I don't know if I want to take any of these things. Some of them seem kind of tawdry. You know, I'm a serious writer. You know, would F. Scott Fitzgerald have ever had bobblehead dolls? And then I thought about it a little. I said, you know, from what I know of F. Scott Fitzgerald, he would have sold bobblehead dolls in a minute if they'd offered him any money for that. So he and Zelda could have continued to party. So I signed these various contracts, and I think there've been good and bad things about it. You know, I didn't want to be just a guy who signs a contract, cashes the check. I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do these products, that they were good products, that they were true to the material. So initially, I wrote in a lot of approvals to all of these things, that they could do the game or they could do the whatever it is, but I would have to approve everything. And that sounds good in theory, but of course what it led to me spending a lot of time approving stuff, and not only approving, but giving notes on stuff. And I was probably a little obsessive about it at first, and it wound up taking a lot of my time. So I still don't want to let crappy products get out there, but I have pulled back a little on the approvals now that I know some of my licensees and who I can trust and who I can't trust. But the good part is that I discovered that there's an enormous synchronicity here, because my readership started to build from people coming in from other avenues saying, I'd never heard of your series, but I played the role-playing game,
Yeah.
and I loved the role-playing game. I thought I'd better look up the books, or, you know, I collected miniature figures and paint them, and I saw your figures that Dark Sword was doing, and then I decided I'd better look up the books. So I was getting new readers from all of these things. It did cause a bit of a bump, you know, with the HBO deal, which came along a few years later, because, you know, customarily when you sell the rights to a TV or film company, they get all the merchandising rights. So HBO was saying, well, here's the deal, and we get all the merchandising rights. I said, I can't give you all the merchandising rights. I've already sold it to these other people. And what do you mean? We always get all the merchandising rights. And, you know, it wound up for a time that looked like the whole deal was going to fall apart because, you know, even if I wanted to give them the merchandising rights, I couldn't because I had pre-existing contracts. But thankfully, my lawyers and agents were finally able to iron that out. But it was a ludicrous
But what do you think?
negotiation at a point where it's saying, yes, we'll give you keychains, but we keep bobblehead dolls. You're going through all of that with the agent.
And what
Now
about-
that HBO is going, of course, I still have the old contracts that are grandfathered in, that are still direct to me, but everything that's not under contract went to HBO. So now there's just a flood of merchandising coming out because nobody knows how to merchandise like a television network or a film studio. So there are new products coming out all the time, including some I never would have thought, like our own beer. I mean, it's great. We have our own beer. It's terrific.
His troopers, they were loyal, his troopers, they were young. They'd follow Alan Wilson to the setting of the sun. They were hands from many lands and many a distant shore. They would follow Wilson, a soldier to the core. Up the Washangani and down the other side. Up the Washangani where Alan Wilson died. The Matabele, the army, was running to the north, and Major Forbes would follow it for all that he was worth. But reaching the Shangani River wide, sent Wilson and his men to scout over the